Okay, we are recording. Okay, I am Brian Kynes, as always, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to play through the game and tell our story, and the wonderful folks that are surrounding us and are on the screen today help write it one game at a time. To this side of me, because it's reverse, I have to keep remembering to do that, is Heather and Kara. Heather will be playing the role of Sylowen. Kara will be playing the role of Tamara. Tamara. Didn't realize that till this now. It's pretty nice. Down below them is Sean. He'll be playing the role of Sade, which is going to start getting to be our version of Sherlock Holmes here, it turns out. And then directly below me is Jeremy Keaton, as always. And he'll be playing the role of Merc, which pilots Brahmas, the celestial construct. The last time we played, everyone was getting rest, or kind of, depending on who we're talking about. Yeah, you know who you are. And we had got through quite a bit. The last campaign was really interesting and fun to watch. Sade's interactions with Gleandra. Brahmas being accompanied by, it was Ignatius and Miasha, I believe, talking about what Vander plans to do with this artifact now that he has it in his possession. Some really good stuff there. Tamara just wanting to actually let loose for a little bit and have a drink after all this shit is done. She's was poisoned the first time. She had to be a hard ass. She went in there. She played some games. She fought hard. She's ready to have a break, and she deserves it. And she's also got the stress of Valdera on her shoulders as well right now, trying to make sense of it all. Sylowen and Dayhon had a successful way of celebrating the day's victory, which played out pretty cool. It was about as PG as you can get for grown adults going through this in the game. I even tagged like D&D getting it on, like so people want to know, how should I do that in my game? I think it went pretty well. That's the way to do it. So, having said all those things, I'm going to go ahead and jump into what Kara is up to and Tamara. And then if anyone has any questions or anything, jump in. And remember, everyone just try to enjoy everyone when they're taking their turn, and yours is coming eventually. It's just kind of part of it, okay? So, let's see here. So, for Tamara, you were
heading into a bar.
Absolutely, the bar, if you will, like one of the best bars, the Drunken Mug. And we had discussed briefly what the city itself actually looked like during this. We had went through this at different points in times where you hear different groups of people and stuff in celebration ringing out over top of the city. You see confusion on the ground. You see some people that were hurt. You see some folks that are trying to explain what it is that happened and why these things came out of the shadows, and there must be some kind of curse. It's a sign that the War of the Giants is coming and they've unlocked something new. You know the truth of it, but you almost feel almost like the prophets of religions in the old days. You know the truth of what's really causing this, but you know it would just take too much time and be too hard to explain to everybody what really happened. Okay? And as you see that, it even weighs on you a little bit more. It's time for a sip of something. You know what I mean? So, having said that, you head that direction. And I think I had mentioned that, let me remember his name here. So many names, so many people. Taryn, the Drakian doorman, was still at the front door. I think I mentioned that at the end of the last episode, that you saw him in the distance and you could see a crack of light that shot across the streetway where the door was somewhat open, and it was dim in the windows.
Is that the person Miasha has a thing for?
Yes. Possibly she does. She's infatuated with not just what he looks like, being mortal and being part of this dragon, but also how somber and elegant he is in his spot. See, Draken were dealt a really rough hand. They're trying to get back in society. Impresses her in the way he goes about it, because he could break things, but he chooses to be this kind of subtle, humble giant that sits there in the doorway to keep people safe, that he was bred to destroy. So it's really it's a contradiction, is what it is. So, having said that, you see him in the doorway, and he still seems to be smoking that pipe. You're at the point now where you can smell the herbs of that, and it's pleasant, almost like a crock pot at your grandma's house or something like that. It's spiced up, and he is looking at you from a distance as you make your way to this place. As you get within 10 or 15 foot of the door, he cracks the door open, and as he does, you can hear several different soldiers' voices come from inside of the drunken mug. They seem to be roll a perception check for me, Tamara.
Perception is wisdom, which I am proficient in. That's really good. So I rolled at 18 plus 20, 24.
Very good. Okay. So this is like Mission Impossible when you notice the fly on the wall over there, and you notice all this shit, right? It seems like these soldiers, um, from the look of things and from them cleaning off their blades in the conversation, you know what Aloria and Roselia look like, the two barmaids that work in this place. Okay, and you recognize that they are thanking them and giving them food bound up to take with them. These soldiers have obviously came there to help deal with this goblin threat. And now that it's over, they're all leaving. So they're in the process of doing their thanks, saying their goodbyes, and things like that. And you hear Aloria, the redheaded one of the two, go up to one and give him a last minute meal and say, "This one's for Valimar," when he's seen to the king and starts making his rounds again. You don't know exactly what they're talking about, Tamara, but you know that Valimar, do you remember who that is, by the way?
I do not.
Okay, Valimar is like the right hand man of the king. He is the one that looks like Agent Ward from S.H.I.E.L.D. He is they call him the Grey Knight. He is like the muscle behind the king. He's a young, black haired fighter, and he's proven himself many, many different times, and he's someone that you would have expected to see in this, whatever this was, this attack on the city, but he was absent for some reason. But these are his soldiers. He's the head of the guard also. Um, and as she hands him this package, she goes, "Make sure that gets to Valimar. Hopefully we can see him soon when he's done attending to Omadon, the king of the city." Okay. As they make their way out, they actually kind of don't notice you right off very much. They kind of just start piling out the door, just like a bunch of dumb guys would. It's almost like watching a bunch of dumb jocks come out after practice. Really, they have that mentality. They're beat up. They're wanting to just go home and get some sleep, and they're worn out and tired. And as they all run past the door, Roselia, which is Bastile's love interest, she looks like a very pretty Hispanic woman with long black hair, and she dresses almost like a barb maiden slash swashbuckling pirate in a way. And she comes to the door, and you've met her several different times. I know it's hard to remember everybody. And she comes to the door, and she's always a huge flirt with most people. And as she's saying sarcastically, "We'll see you again, ta-ta," and all that shit to them, she puts her hand up on the arch of the doorway, and she looks over to Taryn, and she blows the hair up out of her face. She's like, "We could have defended ourselves if I knew it cost that large of a chunk of my sanity." And she looks up and she notices you standing there. And she walks out and she looks at you and she goes, "It looks like both of us could use a drink after this day. Taryn, we'll close up." Taryn looks at the two of you like that, He just nods and doesn't say a word, silently picks up his shield and his mace that are leaning behind the doorway from the inside of the place. He keeps it back there in case emergency breaks out. And as he walks past you, you can feel the thud of his footsteps, even on the stone. This is a large creature, very elegant moving. His head doesn't move much when his body does. He's it would almost seem godlike in a way, just the way that this creature moves about and things. It's very different from what you're used to. Do you have anything to say to anyone at this point?
I think I'm just gonna tell the barkeep to grab the whole bottle.
Okay. As she looks at you and she puts her hand on your shoulder and she says to you, "My lady," and she smiles and winks at you as she turns around and walks back to the bar area. Um, Now, do you remember Rosalia and Aloria, the two barmaids of this place? Do you guys recall them at all?
I remember the name Rosalia.
Okay. So, did you ever watch the television series Daredevil when it
Yes.
came out? It was really good. And the girl that played Elektra in that TV series is who this character is based after.
Okay.
Okay, so that helps put that visual in your head. She's extraordinarily feisty, and she runs this place like, I don't know how you would explain her charisma, but she is fantastically equipped to deal with any kind of situation that this rough and tumble place throws at her. She is the swagger and the savvy behind this place, whereas Loria's character looks like a really young Nicole Kidman with the long red curled hair, the pale complexion, almost like an Irish kind of person. And she is the one of the two that takes care of the business side of it. That's always kind of looking skeptically at people and seeing what's going on. The two together run this place in the absence of the dwarven person that owns it, which is Rygar Hellmace. He is not around anymore. That's another story. I'm telling you these things because Tamara would know this. Okay. But these two always seem to work together, and you know that Valimar, the Grey Knight, the one we talked about briefly, and Aloria's character are in a relationship. They keep it quiet because he has a job to do and she does too, and they don't mix business with pleasure, but the two care about each other quite a bit. And Rosalia is in a relationship with Danny's character, Bastille, which is not around right now. He's an elven rogue-like character that is off. And because
I was like, oh God.
No, I know. And the thing is, yeah, that gets interesting. And what's interesting is Sade a couple different times has made himself look like Rosalia. So those two kind of have a thing where they argue just a touch about that issue. You remember all that, Sean? I think he fell asleep. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Nope, he's not asleep.
It's all good. So, with that, if you have any more questions about these two, just let me know and I'll continue. Okay. So she goes back and she gets a bottle of something you know very well what this is. There's a thing called Giant's Toe Ale. And it is the finest stuff that they make in this place. And there's a story behind it. You've never quite heard the full story, but it's almost like you know that this is an ale that was made because of a victory that the old bar owner had over the dwarves in one of the early battles that Gemdar's had against him. And you know that there's an actual amputated giant's toe that is kept on display, almost like a ship in a bottle, in this place in the back wall that is legendary. And that it was named after that celebration that happened after that feat. As you walk into the place, a lot of the chairs are already flipped up. It's almost like a restaurant closing down. One of the fireplaces of the two, one on the far centers on both sides, are put out. Just the one is on, and you see Aloria's character going by and shoving on some of these big casks of ale that the dwarves brought in there for this dwarven wake that happened here just hours ago. and checking on some of them like, we have a lot left of this one. Roselia, we should be marking this down at least in 3 or 4 days. And she goes by and she pushes on another one, and that one's a lot lighter. Things of that nature are going on. And Roselia looks over her shoulder and says, find a seat wherever you would like to. It's not that you don't have any company, maybe some peace and quiet and an actual drink in a hospitable place for a change. She goes back, grabs that, and begins to walk over to the table and pours you a long, large glass of this stuff, and then looks at you for a minute and kind of squints and sits the bottle down beside. She goes, and she just nods her head like that, and then she goes over and picks up a writing tablet and starts writing down some things that the other character, Aloria, is telling her about what's left over from the day. So as you sit there, what's the demeanor here? Are you in here just to get screwed up and get messed up so you can get some sleep? Are you in here to reflect on something? And if you are, tell us your thoughts. What is going through Tamara's mind tonight?
1 to 10 is going to be reflection. 11 to 20 is going to be white girl wasted.
I like it.
So 2. All right, so we're going to reflect. So I guess the demeanor is more exhausted with a hint of sadness, but also a sprinkle of relief that things are kind of over at the moment. So I would say Tamara probably downs the first one pretty quickly and is hoping to have, some of the anxiety and stress lifted. So I'm going to say she gets a second and then she's going to head over to the fire, and then she's going to have like that TV scene moment where she's just looking into the fire, kind of reflecting on all the things, and trying not to think about all the things, but like obviously the flood of emotions and everything that's just happened. So I would just say she's in like deep thought and reflection, and if anything else happened around her, she probably would not notice.
Okay. As you look into the fires of the fireplace, it reminds you, in just a moment, how people usually look into the fires and you'll see a little shape in the ember that reminds you of something, or a little flicker of a shadow on the wall, or something like that. And as you're doing that, you get just a slight flashback to Vander getting severely burned by that chimera that attacked you both when you were very young. And you almost remember the smell of the hair. You almost remember the fearlessness in her when this happened, and how you had fear in you, how very different you were back then, and how closer to the same kind of creature you are today. As you're doing that, roll a perception check with disadvantage because of how entranced you are by the fire.
17.
17? Okay, 17. As you're doing this, you don't really think about everything you went through just now. The mask seems to be a long, distant memory. Your face feels maybe a little heavy from it, just from the nature of it, but there's no actual thoughts to that. And only because it is so barren in this place, there's no one else around, you seem to have noticed that you don't hear Roselia or Aloria now. Their voices are gone, you don't know for how long. And as you do, you hear light steps and you see a shadow on the wall coming from the upstairs. And it is Dorbach. Okay. You remember Dorbach, okay.
Dorbach, the one we all hate?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Or supposedly. You feel about him how you will. As he comes down the stairway, the halfling, not looking as arrogant or clever as usual. He's kind of out of disguise right now, if you will. He's just being plain Jane himself. He always has that vest on. Hair's always slicked back with the streaks of gray through the side of it, and always has those large, wicked cut eyebrows of very dark hair. And as he comes down and he matches a look with you, he stops and he gets that kind of grin on the side of his face as he sometimes would. And he closes his eyes very slowly and gives you a long bow. And as he begins to walk down the stairs, he does a very slow clap. You guys handled yourselves pretty well tonight. I can't think of anything that happened that can't be fixed in time or by the right people. He says, and you particularly. And he gives you a once over, keeping a respectable distance before he comes all the way down the stairway. I've described the inside of this place before. He says, I don't see anything really. And he sees a little bit of that dried blood in your hair, maybe from where you got messed up pretty good earlier. But he looks you for a long time humbly in the eyes. And he says, it seems like something's happened to you, maybe more on the inside than the out, Tamara. He looks at that bottle. He says, I'd get you a drink, but it seems you've got that taken care of. He nods, and I'll leave you to it then.
Tamara will give him a kind of cheers with the bottle.
Do you do it sarcastically?
No, more of a just cheers.
Okay. I was just hoping for my own selfish reasons.
As he walks past you, he says, do you plan on being at the Heart of the Beast tomorrow? He says, once he's walked past you, you can hear his voice. What do you reply?
I don't see why I wouldn't be.
There will be a payment coming along for some of you that have aided in this town's salvation. There's a touch of that sarcasm you're used to. And he says, I just want to make sure that the fool I've hired to run this errand for me can actually find you all. It's nice to be able to mark you off that list this early. And that's all he says. And then he continues to leave. Goes to the front door, opens it up. As he plays the lock for a minute, he locks it behind himself again as he leaves. Roselia jumps out and looks from behind the bar for a minute as she heard something stutter at the door and sees that nobody's there. Looks along for a minute, glances over at you, and goes back to work in the back. Okay? With that, roll me a Constitution saving throw, please.
The 12.
Okay. It's starting when you were doing that. You turn your head back around, you look at the fire. Things are just a touch blurry. You feel a little bit euphoric. You are like, I wasn't sarcastic to him. Sylowen would have wanted me to smart off to him. Maybe
too deep in my own field.
Maybe the booze is starting to lighten me up a little bit, and you can't help but be pleased because that's why you were having it. You know what I mean? It's nothing major, but it's doing its business. It's working its mojo on you. Okay? Is there anything else you would like to explore at the moment, or are you just going to hang out here for a while, or how long before you leave?
I would say I stay until I finish the bottle. I generously tip the bartenders well. And then I slowly make my way back to my room in the heart of the drunken beast, or the heart of the beast.
The heart of the beast. The
Yes.
Drunken beast. That's what you'll be calling it by the time you drink this bottle. Roll me a 1d4.
A 1.
Okay. You down that bottle in 1 hour.
Oh no.
Okay.
Tamara's gonna go from 0 to 100.
You put a hurting on it, ma'am. That and your liver, which is all good. And as you do, you happen to look over and you're getting really comfortable in your chair. You know how that gets. And you look over and you see that Roselia is there looking at you from the bar, and she's just grinning. And she kind of throws her hair back kind of flirtatiously in a way and just remembering something, almost like a person with a breeze that isn't there. And she goes, do you have someone in your life? She says like that to you.
Tamara says, just me, myself, and I.
She goes, she smiles. She goes, I usually don't see people in here drinking like that with a smile on their face like that unless they either are looking forward to seeing someone or they're glad they're letting someone go. And she has her arms on the bar and she kind of has her shoulders pushed up around her head, and she rocks herself for just a minute. And she goes, I don't mean to bother you or act as if I really give a damn, but have you heard from Bastille since he's left on whatever whimsy adventure this is that he's on? You haven't. Bastille and you have been on adventures together before. Do you remember what Danny's character Bastille is like at all? Because I don't think he's really played around you very much.
We haven't met him, I don't think.
I mean, I guess I know him, but I don't know about him.
Yeah.
He is involved in things that have to do with Dorbach, but he is resistant to let himself get engulfed in something that is dark. He's a half elf. He's an elf with long dark hair, and he has a roguish appearance to him. And he comes from a city pretty far away called No Jill. That is a magic capital where they do a lot of training of a lot of different people there. The main thing you remember about him is he always respected his distance from you, but he was always pick and prod at you about little things, like pick on you, like maybe your hair was a mess, or what would your family say now if they saw you had dirt on this, that, and the other. He would point at that, but respected your distance. Very, very helpful, and he seems to be an ambassador of Vander now. He seems to be almost the person that Vander says, this item's out there. Get some people together and go find that for me. You would almost have to assume that he has a working relationship with Vander in that shop and that whole mystique. Okay? That's what you know about him. And you know that he has a small airship called Roselia's Eye that Sylowen you flew on when you came back from the Avian Sea to here. That's what you flew in on initially. And it was named after Roselia, always keeping her eye on him. She's a very possessive, very watching person, but she hates to admit that. That's why she can't help but ask you how he's doing. You know that he had to deal with Vander getting that dust that Ignatius and them were able to use to help you seal away this mask once and for all. Wherever Bastille went to, he asked a favor from a person, and that's how that came into your all's possession. Okay? So that's all you really know. He intentionally didn't tell any of you about anything. He just kind of got up and left. And the last couple times you'd seen him, he had a heavy heart. Some things were weighing on him, not being able to tell people the truth about things, people intertwining him in things he didn't mean to be a part of. He had a heavy heart when he left, so he intentionally didn't say much to you all. How would you respond to her?
Well, I'd say if Bastille has been as busy as myself, then it's hard to keep track. So I'm sure he's off completing a task and will be home shortly.
Okay. She rolls a very, very high check. Were you telling, how much of the truth do you feel that Tamara was telling there? All of it? Or were you trying to be somewhat nice and distant about your answer?
I would say she would be honest in the fact that she's, we've been going nonstop, super busy. So assuming that knowing Vander's quest can be involved, that he's deep into it.
But you are lying about the fact that you knew that his heart was heavy, but you didn't say that.
But I don't know why his heart's heavy.
So
I'm just calling you out, baby.
As that happens, halfway through your explanation, Her eyes narrow a little bit, and she starts shaking her head as if she knows what you're saying is a nicer version of possibly the truth. And she looks at you for a minute. She looks you up and down. She goes, as an adventurer's life would be, distant, unique, and always full of mystery. She smiles bitterly for a moment as she walks over and she goes to pick up the bottle. And you know how you go to pick up a suitcase that's empty when you thought it was full of luggage, and you look like you're like, wow, that was neat. She has that moment with your bottle where she goes to pick it up, put the cork back in it, and she has that kind of realization. And she looks at you. She goes, I don't know how you fit it all in there, but I'm curious to see how you walk out of here with it. And she puts a smile on her face, and she takes the cork and just throws it on the floor and laughs at it as it bounces in between your legs and shit like that, and then finally falls on the floor. She turns around and walks off, and she goes, I'll close it behind you. She goes, I tell you to be careful out there, but I don't think there's anything you're going to see that you haven't dealt with already. When you do see him,
Before she finishes, Tamara says, I'll let him know.
and make your peace with him, I might kill him.
I will let him know as well.
She says that oddly seriously with kind of a dry chuckle at the end of it, which makes you, as lit as you are, go like, holy shit. You know, she has that way about her. With that, I'll go ahead and say that you leave this place, okay? And were you heading to the Heart of the Beast to pass out?
We are closing up shop and
Okay.
getting a full rest in.
As you do, you have the key on you to get into the door. And as you are unlocking the door and everything of that nature, you are pleased to see that there is half-eaten food laying on one of the main large stone tables inside of the shop. That Winona is, you can hear Winona snoring. Winona is the small red-headed dwarven woman that helps map out all the stuff on the creatures. You can always hear her snore from her quarters. She has lungs on her. She is a burly freaking woman, man. And as you hear that, you walk upstairs, and the only thing you can tell yourself is, I hope she's here asleep. I hope maybe something I said to her earlier helps her. You gave her that lantern, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, do me a favor. I don't know if we did this initially or not. When you gave her that lantern, I would like you to roll a perception check, or not a persuasion check, please. That's charisma, which you are proficient in. Okay, tell me what you get.
17, 18.
18 will do it. It was close. Okay, she got a 16 for that, and so when you are going up the left flight of stairs, down the one long hallway of this place where you guys have your bedrooms on opposite sides of the hallway, you go in there and you see a dim lantern light glowing from underneath of her doorway. You would have to assume that maybe it's that. And you hear silence. Normally, sometimes she'll wake you up screaming. Sometimes you'll hear her toss and turn like she's fighting battles in her sleep. Not tonight.
Which instantly gives Tamara relief.
Yeah.
And she will sleep easy tonight.
Okay. And at some time, think about what you've got your quarters. Mind you, a lot of these places, they're done a certain fashion. This looks like a large ski large, like museum type kind of place, and these rooms up top have the arched ceilings to them. A lot of the stone fireplaces go up and are part of your wall, so the heat radiates into your room from them. You can decorate your room however you would like. So just think about kind of what it looks like, but it's like a large ski lodge type feel, but it has a lot more stonework to it than wood. Okay,
That's cool.
and it is in the upper level, and it is a very comfortable place for you to be. So, at any time in the future, just write down some notes. Okay, we'll say that's the end of your night. Okay, um, Brahmas. Um, as you go back to the one um, redecorated vault room that Vander has given to you. You're such a noble guy by nature that you're typically piling Brahmas down this corridor of lefts and rights in this what seems like an immensely large vault room down there. And you know that the place you stay is usually on the very first floor of it. Um, but for the first time, now that you've heard all this and you know that he was going to put that mask in here somewhere, and you've actually been a part of something that was in here, you can't help but be curious and start looking around a little bit on this trip on your way down. I would like for you to roll a investigation check, please. How was the food? 12, you said? Okay. How was the food, everybody? Okay? Good. Okay. A 12. Okay. All right. Just one instance. Okay, as you are walking down through this area and you see that symbol of the book that is open with the sun in the middle of the pages, which you know is a symbol for something that Vander's a part of. You've heard Scholars of Dawn, but you've never really, just what he's revealed to you. As you're going down that hallway, there seems to be one door in particularly that sometimes you'll hear sounds from on your way to going to bed. The sounds sometimes be like something is being shifted around and moved in there. You hear sliding on stone. Sometimes you hear the sound of almost like chains being wound up pulling the anchor from a ship. You always hear different things coming from that one particular room. And as you go down the hallway, you can't help yourself but to stop and investigate that door a little bit and see if you notice anything natural or hear anything different on this night. Okay? What's that 12? Um, as you do, and you stand there for just a moment, roll a perception check for me.
Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. Heather, you're starting catchphrases. You're a trendsetter. I'm telling you what, that's good shit. Okay, dirty 20. Let's say, now when you're there, you could swear, as odd as it seems to you, and you know you've had a day, okay? You almost hear the sounds of crashing waves coming from this one particular room. And as you're hearing that, you are inside the castle, and you're like, I wish I could do more and sense more with Brahmas. And as you're staring into the present window, as you would be in that trifecta of windows, you know what it looks like inside there. You find your mind reeling a little bit. You know, you found an ale inside here, you're able to drink it. And this has triggered some kind of memory for you. You're not quite sure what, but all of a sudden, inside of this place, there's a gust of wind inside of Brahmas. And it smells like the ocean. Jeremy. It's a strange feeling. And as you look back down behind you to see where this gust of wind is coming from, you see at the large grand doors that open to the central chamber where you usually do your training. That I lost that map a long time ago. It sucks so bad. I'll recreate it someday. But it had the hidden rooms and two big statues of things. You notice the door behind you is wide open, and you don't remember if you left it open or not. And you can hear that sound echoing from the hallway down below you. Do you do anything now, or are you going to continue to your room, or what is it you'd like to do currently?
I'd like to go ahead and check it out.
Okay. So, are you just going to leave Brahmas kind of standing there for a minute? Now you're going to kind of go investigate this and leave him stationary, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As you do, you turn around, you head out the main gate, and in the central large cylindrical staircase of all kinds of very confusing stairways that are sideways, twisting up and down, windows, a bird will flap in from outside and all of a sudden disappear and pop up in another place. This very interdimensional castle-like area is fairly unchanged at this moment. You look around, automatically wanting to see if there's something different. And then you hear that wave again, and you smell that air, and you look down below and you see a door in a place that there wasn't a door before. Okay. Go ahead and roll me a. If you can figure out a way to navigate these stairs in a way that will be able to lead you to that door, because sometimes they can be very confusing, and sometimes they move as you're walking on them. So let's go ahead and do a investigation for that, for an intelligence, and see how you're able to figure this situation out. I will give you advantage on this roll just because of your expertise and things. It's not completely out of the way. It's close to other doors you've been to, but it's still going to be a challenge.
19.
19. Okay. As you go down through the stairway, you know that picture that has like the never-ending stairway? It looks like a square of steps. It almost plays a trick on you like that once or twice, where you have to really give a thing a look and step out of your comfort zone to entrust your instincts. And you are able to make your way to it. As you do, you'll notice that the door doesn't have a typical doorknob, but it just has a long oval shaped bronze like handle. And you could swear that you've seen something like this before. You just can't quite put your finger on it. Do you choose to go ahead and open it, or are you going to leave it alone for now?
I'm already here. Might as well open it.
Okay. As you do open it, you are blinded for just a moment by bright light. And as that seems to go away and you put your hand up just naturally to try to keep the light out of your eyes, that smell washes over you and you can hear ocean waves and things like that even louder than you could before. As you're able to slowly look through your fingers, you look around into that room and you see a memory in the middle of a large, like 60 by 80-foot large room that looks like it would almost be like a dining room of some sorts in this place, made out of stone tables, stone walls, different memorabilia and things on the walls. And you start looking around and you see harpoons on the walls. And you see, let me think, what else would you see? Um, How do I want to do this? Roll perception check, Jeremy. Another one.
A 5.
Okay. You see a lot of these things you don't identify with very well, but there's one thing in particular that you do notice that seems to symbolize either what this is or how this means to you, and you see this large set of harpoons on the wall of this place. Okay. As you look at that for a long moment, you look out into the middle of this room, and almost like a faint image, almost like a ghostly scene from your past, you see what looks like large pillars of a ship rocking back and forth, and you can hear the waves and tide as if you're seeing an image of a memory of you riding on a ship. And you start thinking to yourself, when was I on a ship? When did this happen exactly? And you, from that role, you can't quite recall when it was. But while you're on that thing, you can hear different soldiers yelling out their name. And as you look into it deeper, you can see it was a very, very bright day on this particular memory. But at the current moment, you're not able to put your finger on it to remember what this memory is about. Okay? But you might want to write that down. You can title this room whatever you want to title it. But there is something here that you need to finish. And that whatever's going on in that room up there has triggered this memory for you. Okay? So kind of keep that in mind. All right? After you struggle with that for just a moment, sometimes it's best to walk away from things. You can't just keep beating yourself up over this. Or you could choose to go in there and sit in the middle of the room and fall asleep and just think about it until whenever. I mean, you can do what you want to do. It's D&D. So with that, what would you like to do from this moment on?
I think he'd ponder on it, but ultimately getting Brahmas to a spot so he can do any necessary repairs
Okay.
and try to rest himself and just kind of sleep on it.
Okay. So as you do that, and you get ready to go back through the door and you close it, and you physically grab the door with your hand and shut it behind you, you have an epiphany. And you, all of a sudden, it just comes to you all at once. I'm able to touch physical things in here, but I'm able to step outside of Brahmas now. I'm able to become ethereal in a place that has physically sealed doors all around me. And it almost takes Merc's breath for just a minute as you start to realize that you dare not do it, but is there truly a door that you couldn't pass through like a spirit now that you're able to leave him? And you've never considered that. And you've got to think that Vander has. I mean, he seems extraordinarily smart. And it's a curious thing. I'll let you do with that what you will. What is your next thought? I mean, it's all good. I'm just saying, you think better of it just because of your nature. But you've never even thought about that shit before. Giving Jeremy food for thought. He's like, well, damn, Brian.
I'm going to need a little bit to think about that.
Yeah.
I'd say he's kind of adding that to the pool of thoughts to lie down with.
Yeah.
Just to sit and figure out if there's any way that something like that would benefit him.
Okay.
Should he choose to go outside of Brahmas?
Okay. So we'll say you'll go ahead and go to your own personal quarters then, inside here. Well, first you'll need to pile up Brahmas to get him to where he needs to be. Okay. We'll go ahead and go through that. And I suggest to you, as well as her and her downtime, I think I've roughly talked to you about what your room here looks like before, but I want you to kind of understand that what this is, it is a room that has been refurbished with things that you've asked for particularly. It has books on the things that your people had went through after the victory in the war. It's a history lesson on what you missed. Okay. It has a spot for you to stand. It has different devices and things that are almost like upgrades for Brahmas, almost like tinkering things that are set out on work tables where you have notes. It has a place that you've kind of deemed your standing place where you park him for the night. It does have a bed, but you've never been in it. It's very dusty, but it is there in case it's something you have an option of for a day. You can decorate this place and make it your own however you would like to. Okay? And we'll say for tonight, you go in there and you crash and you ponder about these things. Now that you're actually able to be a person again, but you're kind of halfway between this reality and another, what does that truly mean for you? And it's a curious moment. Okay? Are you good with that ending your night there, or is there something else? Okay.
That works
All
for
right.
me.
All right, Sean, you round?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Sorry.
So don't be sorry. It's fine. So where is it you were going to end your night at? Was it on the Dreadnought, or where did you want to go?
yes, on the Dreadnought in my own room.
Okay.
Sade is gonna go into her room, into her quarters. She's gonna sit on her bed, exhausted. She'll snap her fingers, bring out Isadora, kind of pet Isadora a little bit. And then she's gonna look over to her vanity where she has a mirror on there. She's just gonna stare into the mirror.
Okay.
And as she
Nice.
stares into the mirror, her skin goes to her white form. Her eyes are golden. Her hair turns that golden color. And then her hair starts to shorten and her feminine features kind of go away into a little bit more masculine features.
The bird
And then-
squawks once or twice at the changes,
Mhm.
just out of nature, but holds its ground.
Don't worry, Isadora. A new chapter is starting. And so maybe a new look.
Okay, and then
As Sade goes from being a female to a male.
okay, interesting.
She closes her eyes. She sends Isadora away, and
You do that through the main door back into the ship, or you do this through a window?
no, she just snaps her finger, and Isadora goes back in that little pocket dimension.
Okay,
And
so
then
you send her back to that. Okay,
yeah, Sade just goes to sleep.
okay.
hmm
So, as the night goes on, the gentle drifting of the ship is something that you've always been quite familiar with. Even when you were a stowaway on the ship years and years ago, when you found solace and fell asleep down in the supply rooms at night, that was a comfort that has traveled with you in all the different places you've been allowed to be on this ship before. And a thought crosses your mind. Where can't I go now?
hmm
And it's funny how similar this is to Brahmas's realization as it is to yours.
hmm
After what I have done, what you have done for her, for Gleandra particularly, now that you don't feel the threat of Asliar exactly the way you used to feel it, what doors on the Dreadnought aren't open up to me, and is it up for me to decide if they're open or closed anymore? Will Gleandra still want to be the ship captain tomorrow? Will Asliar be in peril and danger from the city of Ravens now that he's aided in this and took away one of their major players? But with your demeanor and being in your natural form and having that talk with her, you find sleep easier tonight than it has been in months.
hmm
Okay? With that, you fall into a deep sleep with no waking until the next morning.
Got it.
Okay? With that, I'm going to go ahead. Sylowen, are you around, Heather? Okay. I'll go ahead and start with you then, Sade, as far as the waking up process is concerned. Okay.
Okay.
So the next morning, do you have a set hour that you would like to say that your character typically gets up? Now, normally this is like 3:30 in the morning. So
Mhm.
decide about what time normally you would want to be getting up and getting moving.
I think at this time, Sade is just gonna sleep in today.
Okay.
So about went to bed about 3, maybe about 11:30, 12:30. He's getting up.
Okay. Since that's the case, I want to keep that in mind. Heather, now that you're back, we've went through that
Sorry.
scene. No, it's okay. I'm going to do the wake up scene with you first. Then we're going to go around and see where everybody's ideas is or where they want to go. Just off
Okay.
top of the head, Sean, while I'm still talking to you, do you have a plan for how you want to start your new day?
Yeah, just I'm gonna wake up and then stretch, try and just go get that damn crossbow and return the ashes to Vandren's shop.
Okay. And where did
Yeah,
the crossbow? Where were you getting it from?
from Vandren's shop.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Yeah.
keep that in mind. Jeremy, when your character gets up the next day, what exactly were you wanting to do? You're at Vander's shop. Was there anywhere particular you were wanting to go?
I think he would kind of just wander around the shop. I don't know how long it's been since he's actually wandered through it.
Hold on. Autumn, what are you doing to that? No, you don't do that. That's for coffee. That's not for you to mix things in. You put stuff in that? Well, that's not good. Don't do that. Okay. Okay, but you didn't put anything in that ball particularly. You're just adding that to that. That's fine. Okay, cool. Okay. Thought my kid was making all kinds of shit over here. Okay, so with that, did you guys by chance discuss or anything like where you were going to meet up the next day or what was going to happen? Was there any conversation that maybe I don't recall, or there really wasn't any direction? Was there? Everyone kind of
I
split, went
think
their
we
own
were
ways.
all just so
Whipped.
done with the day that we just like, well, I'll see you when I see you.
Okay, that's cool. That
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, Sade didn't have any time to discuss anything with everybody. She just bolted. So
Okay, with you, Heather, you when everything's said and done and you're laying there in the bed and at Dayhon's abode there on the airship, the Lylon, um, this is a nice place to sleep in that it's much more barbaric and not as civil as the kind of utopian society that you're used to on the Avian City. But there is a charm to this. It is neat the way this warrior, this person, has found things that give him personal comfort and made that the place that he stays. Whereas in your city, the fact that you were able to sing and be expressive and bring on the changing of the seasons and being a maiden of song and things of that nature was something that you could only express when you got out of the city. The city's not up for an individual's interpretation very much. This is like a painting that you have complete control of here, and you're starting to see the world outside of the Avian City of Dreams as that. This is more of what you make it here. You've not been with a person forever. You know what I mean? And when you did, back in the city, it was a beautiful experience, but it wasn't anything like this. This is a whole different kind of, you know, this isn't a courting because it had to happen by another person your race. This is just something that happened in a celebration, and no one was there to tell you no. And all those people that are of the Maidens of Stars, the people that are the ruling council there in the Avian City, be damned if they're frowning at you now. Why did you even care to begin with? You know what I'm saying? And that is all kind of washing over you as you lay perfectly comfortable beside a warrior underneath of some kind of monstrous fur skin on a rocking airship. You can't believe this is happening to you. Okay? Um, you have the strangest dreams that night. You remember the cold blast of the frost worm as it attacked all you guys and almost killed Ignatius, and it makes you draw the blankets off of him several times. At one point in the middle of the night, you realize that you have all the blankets on you. He has none of them, but he's not taking them back from you. He seems that that's okay. He has large, heavy breathing, but he doesn't snore. His arms are always back behind his head, like this as he sleeps. As the first bit of light seems to break through the portals and the windows that he has that have shutters, the look between the dreadnought and this one is very different. Aeolus's ship is very customized and very elegant and very pirate and theatrical in its nature. There are subtleties here. The dreadnought is far too militant to worry about. And as you look out through the portal, you notice that Dayhon is still sleeping. He is out like a light, breathing somewhat heavy, but not snoring. And you feel yourself kind of restless. You kind of want to get up, and you can't help but tell yourself, what do I do now? How do I act today? Do I wake him up too? What do I do? Where am I going to head today? I mean, you know where Ignatius is, in the city, in his embassary's place where the king has put him up. Okay. He says you're always more than welcome to stay there with him. There's a spot, so you two would share almost like a condo in the city, kind of like you did back in Avian City. You know there's this place, the Heart of the Beast, that you could go to. There's Vander's shop. You'd be curious to see what Miasha said on your behalf when they gave this mask to Vander. So in that moment, no pressure, but what is it that Sylowen like to be doing?
Well, the day is young, so I'm assuming I got up pretty early.
It's damn young. It's barely day. Yeah, I'd say you're like at 6:30, 6:45.
All right, well, I
That's
guess
plenty of sleep
Sylowen
for you.
is going to do yoga to meditate, and
Nice.
then I guess she will get dressed and leave.
Also, you're doing that part before you get dressed. I understand. Okay. I swear.
Who doesn't do naked yoga? It's the best kind of yoga.
This guy here. So you do that in the room?
Hey,
Babe,
yeah, they're
can you
fine.
please remove cat?
They're fine.
Okay. So you're
so
doing
sorry.
that. No, you're doing that in the room, right?
Yeah,
And are you trying to do it subtly enough where not to wake him, or do you not care?
I do not care.
Okay. Okay, with that, he wakes up. As you're getting into your second or third pose position, whatever the hell you know. I'm not good at yoga talk. I can't role play it. As you go through that, you hear him take one more heavy sigh, and as he does, and he turns on the bed, you can hear his elbows and part of his back crack. He's had a long day of it. And as he does, he stands up and walks over to the wall and grabs his behemoth's mantle and the different things that he wears, and he keeps it over there beside his bed. And he throws it onto his shoulders. You didn't realize how heavy the things were that he wore. He was a big guy to see him like that, but this even makes him look bigger. The fur that the mantle's made out of, the actual parts of this onyx-like black hooves that make the shoulder pads on this thing, the large leather plates and braided bronze and iron that hang down off of it. You can't help but think, no wonder he's strong. He has to carry that damn thing around on him all the time. As he gets up, he just kind of ponders and looks at you with his head cocked for just a few minutes. And he goes to walk past you without saying anything, not looking mad or anything, just not saying anything. He gets to the door, and you hear him kind of, as he kind of lets out a little bit of a chuckle. You can see a grin on the side of his face as he looks back as he gets ready to open the door. He says, we all have our rituals. He goes, and mine in the mornings is eating. He goes, He goes to say something to you, and his mouth opens for a minute because he can't quite find the words. And he says, Leah's is always a good place to start the day, which is that exotic food restaurant that's up here run by Whoopi Goldberg's character. He says, if I don't see you there, I'll clean up here later today.
Clean up. What is going on with the room?
Let me see.
Okay. Did I make like a mess?
With a natural 4, it's disarray.
Okay.
I
So
would
we
have
just
to say that the act itself wasn't just set to one place. I would say the room is in disarray. And he is going to
Interesting.
worry about tending to that later. So, yeah, so the room's kind of a hot mess, I guess you could say, to a degree.
That's just Sylowen's whole vibe, so it's fine.
That's what I'm saying, and the dice proved it. So there you go. He leaves out of there and shuts the door behind him, giving you time to finish doing what you're doing. Is there anything you would be saying?
I just wink at him and say, "You'll be seeing me soon."
He'd give a nod, and you could hear him lumber down the door or down the hallway off the ship as the doors close behind him. Once you get done with whatever it is that you're doing there, you've had a long rest, okay? And you feel, and this will explain the level up that you've gained. You feel that you've gained so much experience in the last several hours versus the years of trying to conform and do the same thing at the city. This has been eye-opening, and now it's starting to make sense why Ignatius was always so infatuated with lowlanders. And it's all starting to make sense. And
Yeah, I'm starting to see them not so much as barbarians, but as like, their own subtle beauty that I
yeah,
love about them.
yeah, there is definitely that. That's cool. When you leave here, where is it you were wanting to head to?
Well, before I leave, can I tidy up
Absolutely.
from what I remember the room looking like when we were there is a child.
Yeah, it's Jeremy's kid. Go ahead and roll a history check for yesterday to see how well you remember all the shit that was going on.
History or perception?
Perception is seeing what's around you now.
Well,
This
I
is
would have
something you saw.
perceived it when I came into the room, right?
And
History's
you
if
would
you
have rolled the check
remember.
yesterday when you came in the room.
All right, fine. It's a 16.
A 16 isn't bad. For as subtle as the things are here, you remember it fairly well.
Oh wait, I'm proficient in intelligence.
Nice. So add 4 to that. It's 20.
There you go.
That's very good. You remember that room, and you remember my description of it. It's kind of stuck in your head how neat this was, and I can believe that out of you. So you go about the place trying to put it back the way it was, or are you putting Sylowen's own spin on it, or what exactly are you doing?
No. I put it back the way it was.
It's very respectful, very cool. At least there's no blood ritual, so it's good stuff. That's so funny. Last episode, she's like, Brian Kynes, are you telling me I get to create some stuff? Because there's going to be bloodletting, and there's going to be. I'm like, okay, let's slow down. So it's all
Sylvan
good.
moves everything in the room to the left by like 3 inches.
Just to
Yeah.
knock her, like, no, I don't.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. She does mending
everything
spells, and all the
back.
chairs are on the ceiling. Yeah, it's
I like
good.
make the bed, and then I like leave.
Okay. When you leave, what's the destination? Of all the different places, you got Ignatius, you got Vander's shop. You might want to find Miyasha. You know, the last time you saw Miyasha was in Skywell, dancing on one of the piers. There's all these different places. What is it that Sylowen like to do?
Well, Dayhon, did it sound like he was inviting me to breakfast, or did it sound like
He was saying where he would be because he thought it would have been too forward to invite you there.
but I could perceive that, like he wanted me to come to breakfast?
Yes.
All right, then I'm gonna go to breakfast with him, and then I'm going to probably gonna go check in with Miyasha.
Okay. So we'll say, just briefly going through this, and I'll get to you here in a few minutes, Sean, since you're the late sleeper out of the group. That way, if something weird happens, it can have happened before you wake up, and we'll do things in order. As you do that, you're going to Leah's. It is run by Leah of Rare and Exquisite Cuisine. And remember, it looks like an actual airship restaurant style built thing. It's up in the in Skywatch, which isn't very far from where you are on the same level. And as you go there, it was one of the very first places you came when all this happened. When you first got off Roselia's Eye, this was the first place you came and met some people at. And it's interesting the difference between you from then and now. When you go in there, you see Dayhon and a slew of other people that seem like they're barely awake. Like this is the morning shift at McDonald's. This is the people that are getting ready to get onto the airships. There's all kinds of people in and out of here that have signed up contracts to go on different quests and shit like that. And they're all coming in and out of here. And the smells of this place almost smell like Caribbean food.
Ooh.
It has that allspice, cinnamon kind of smell to it. A lot of really good things coming out as you open the door. Dayhon is sitting at a square table up against a wall with his back to the doorway, hunched over, and eating what is out of a comically small looking bowl and plate compared to his size with his back all rounded and eating things of that nature. As he is there, you see a long, veiled elven man that looks familiar to you. He looks like Jeff Goldblum, okay? And he has a hood that is pulled back. He has skin that is very fair and almost has a bluish-like tint to it with long black hair. And he has a long enchanted cloak that has glowing spheres of what looks like topaz encircling the bottom of it, laying around his cloak. And he is talking eccentrically to Dayhon about something. Oh yes, and all these things, and talking as only Jeff Goldblum would accomplish. When you walk in, you hear Leah's voice call out from the back, says, "Child, I'll be with you as soon as I can. Go on, find yourself a seat now. Go on." And you hear that voice come from the background.
I thought you were yelling at your kids.
Nope. Because I yell in that voice. That's how when I get on. Girls, now get them dishes done up. We done talked about this, now, haven't we? No, it's not how it happens. That's not how I talk to my kids.
It should.
I'll start pulling that out of the hat. Yeah, it'd be no problem. So
You start getting that infamous teenage look that
He's trying to get the bug.
There's a bug in here, and the cats are going ballistic.
Oh, there's two. There's one in the closet. That's one Brady's getting.
So if you hear noises, it's the cats being stupid.
it's fine. It's not a problem at all. So when you hear that, there are two other places to sit at that table. There's one that would be on the air side facing him, and there's one on the side of the table since it is against the wall. You could go over and sit with him. You can do whatever you would like. What would you like to do?
The person that he's talking to, are they on the other side of the table?
They're standing.
But on the other side of the table, or like
They
at the,
are
like,
right
the end of
beside
the
him,
table?
so they would be on the side that's facing away from the wall.
I guess I'd walk over since his back is to me. I would just lightly touch him on the shoulder, walk around him, and then sit across from him.
Hold the.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, as you do that, he looks up at you, and he gives you a nod. He says, "Good morning. Everything seemed to be okay on the ship when you left?"
Yes, it seemed fine. I left it quite in the same way that I first saw it.
He smiles a little bit and bites his lip and goes, "That is good." He says like that, and he says, "I know there's things to do today, but this is the most important thing right now." And he puts his hands beside the bowl and he just kind of takes a deep breath and smells it. That's what I'm talking about. He says like that, and he begins to eat. And as he gets a mouthful of food, and he stops for a minute and he looks at you, and he says, and he finishes swallowing kind of quick because he has words he needs to say. He goes, "There was a person looking for us in here, or at the ship earlier. Um, if I'm not mistaken, we are to be compensated today by some messenger of the city for our deeds lately. So that'll be a nice thing. It's not real often that I make any kind of money in this city other than on the ship. And they
Is
owe
this
us.
like, oh, sorry. Is
Go
this
ahead.
like a weird concept to me? Because I feel like in a utopia, there would be like a cashless system.
There is a method of payment and things, but you've never had it particularly given to you. You were privy to certain things because of the role you played as a maiden of song.
Okay,
This
so
is
this is very weird to
this
me.
is putting things in your own hand, and you get what you want. And when you are hearing this and you know of it, you're not a fool. You're an intelligent person. But now the realization that you could order what he's having. You could have two of those, maybe.
Yeah, like the
You
fact that
could
I'm like,
you
I
could
have
do
my own
whatever
money
you
and I can,
want to do.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah. I'm going through that right now. Okay.
that hits you. Um, as that happens, you have an idea of what is on the menu here from as you were here before. It's usually some kind of sea creatures or different creatures done in a particular style of where Leah is from. And there are large chalkboards that seem to have writings of things. I don't mean like not as generic as specials of the day, but kind of that concept. And they're over the main counter where you will go up and order your food. There are no real waitresses or waiters in this place.
All
Okay.
right.
Um, so as you're going through and having your meal, um, the Jeff Goldblum character looks to you kind of intriguingly and looks over to you and he says, my. He says fastly like that. And he goes, it would seem our place is growing. Yes, growing in many ways. People coming from many different places and coming to conjugate here at Leah's to see that you're here now and to see that Dayhon is here as well. And I can't help but ask myself and wonder exactly why now? Exactly why now are all these wheels seem to be turning and moving together? For some reason, it seems that something is changing. Something is different. You seem different. I don't know you well, but ask yourself, are you different today? I would ask yourself that the next time you have a chance to look in a window, a puddle, or something of that nature to see as your own reflection. And he goes on about this for 3 minutes because that's who he is and that's how he talks. As he does that, he, Dayhon looks at your expression as this guy goes on, and he looks up at him. He goes, Solaris, I would part with this food if for nothing else to put something in your mouth. He says, for God's sake, or whatever God you believe in, this is a sacred thing to me. I'm eating my food. He goes, oh, my apologies. I have an intellectual engine that only runs on the conversations of other people. I sometimes don't know my place. Enjoy your meal of food. Enjoy that. I'll talk to you later. And he turns around and walks off, and Dayhon just kind of smiles and looks up at you. Are you saying anything about this?
I guess I just say like, that guy seems interesting. How do you know him?
He he answers you and he says he is, how can I even put this? How familiar are you with stewards and people that you wouldn't be? He goes, he charters out ships and makes sure it's okay for them to be here. He works for Trevedale, which is the owner of the Crow's Nest, which is that large Russian. He almost looks like a Val Kilmer like character that had the big long feathered hat that his faces were on the coins. And he works as someone that makes sure he's a steward of all the airships and their business in the city. And he works for Trevedale. Not only that, but when there were the behemoth fights a couple nights ago, he was in that, and he is something. Roll me a history check.
Well, it ain't good.
Uh-oh.
10.
Okay. He seems to be some type of a wizard, but he is armed with weapons, which is very contradictory to his look. You're not sure what exactly he is, but he seems to have quite a bit of respect and things, especially from Dayhon, as he talks to you briefly about his responsibilities here. You couldn't help but think, Sylowen, it would have to be a pretty amazing and imposing person to be in charge of what ships are allowed to be here and what ships aren't. Especially, he also collects the dues that they owe too.
Gotcha.
So he's a collector. Um, is there anything else in particular you wanted to talk to Dayhon about? If not, I can fast forward past this a little bit and go on to someone else. Do you have a certain food? What do you want to do here? I can go through this more or not. It's up to you.
I guess I would just respect his ritual since he was so respectful of mine, and I do not talk for the rest of the meal.
Well,
Like
he would say something to you if you weren't speaking.
Oh.
That would be awkward.
No, I mean, I actually thought that was like his thing, like his culture. Like they don't talk during meals.
Well, let's just play it out then. That's really funny. Let's say after that, he eats. She comes over. You order some kind of food, whatever you would like, or you just for shits and giggles. Is there anything particularly you would like to make up that you order to eat at this place? I can tell you the menu if you want, but you can just make something up if you'd like to.
What's the menu? Give me a
Okay.
quick rundown.
Okay. So you're going to have like different kinds of large fish that are going to be served in a style where there's still a head on them, but they are cooked in a way that you're not used to, with a whole bunch of different lime and a whole bunch of different greens and rices and things like that added to them. Everything smells amazing, but you're just afraid to try it. And that's the way it is with most things in here. There was I forget the last time we played in here, but someone was ordering these tentacle kind of like things, and they still had life in them and shit as they were eating them out of
That
the
was
bowl.
me.
And yeah, that was funny too, man. And there's things like that. There are some standards and favorites, but when you would go to get them, it would be different. For this shop particularly, I would say there is a
Okay,
version.
actually,
Oh,
I
go
know what
ahead.
I want to do. I want
Yeah.
it dead, but also the most expensive thing on the menu.
Okay. So as you're going through and looking at the numbers, you would see something that talks about the what is it? It's the Karen. I wrote this down. There is a drink here that is an alcoholic drink called the Tears of Kirin, Kirin. Okay, and you see that on the tape on the chalkboard up ahead, and you see it. It looks like it's some kind of unicorn type horned dragon looking emblem drawn on beside this, and you've never seen anything like it, like some kind of fantasy beast.
Wait, they're
Beside the name of
serving
this,
alcohol for breakfast?
they have it there available. And not only with that, but there's also a description of something else that goes on that talks about the Kirin feast. Okay. And it is almost like when you go to somewhere and you get the platter that has a little bit of everything on it. You got your tater skins, you got your wings, you got your just that. It's like that.
Cool.
And it
Can
is
I afford it? Do I have enough money to buy it?
Let's just say, because we hadn't discussed this beforehand, you would have tried to leave with as much as you could have saved up, possibly, but
For
the
sure.
kind of stuff you have isn't exactly viable here. Okay, so just for the chance of it, I want you to roll me a 1d20. A 20 is you did pretty good, and a 1 is like you brought some baseball cards you thought you could trade for cash.
Is it
Okay.
just the straight 1d20?
It's a straight 1d20.
All right, then it's a 16.
That's not bad. You found some things based on Ignatius's talks that you had when you were staying there with him. And while you were going to his absence, Brahmas steered you in a certain direction. And I will say you have 16 gold and you would have 16 silver. So you want to write that down.
Is that a lot?
That's an average amount for someone that has a job to have on them. Maybe a little more than some folks, but not by a shitload. And this kind of currency would work here, but it's a little bit older style stuff than what most folks have. But it would work here. And you have that, and you could definitely afford this.
Okay. So how much is the meal?
This meal is going to be 1 gold, which is
Alright, cool.
high for food.
Cool. I asked Dayhon if he wants one too.
Yeah.
All right, we're celebrating. I get 2 of them.
I could get used to this. He smiles and kind of looks up at you and smiles a little bit. He looks at you for a minute, kind of curiously, with kind of a half grin. He goes, "You think you'll be able to eat all that?"
Would you rather split it? And I wink.
He smiles and he goes, "I would actually like to actually just like to see you try to eat all that. That would be more entertaining for me."
All
He
right, we
says
get
like
2.
that.
We
Okay.
get 2.
Okay, so as you get them and you go through the feast, roll me a Constitution saving throw. Let's see how you do.
16 again. 18.
You did okay. You did okay. It was good for the first 20 minutes. And then after a while, you're like, the guys in the eating contest start getting the shakes on the hands and shit like that. And you're doing your own thing and you're getting through it pretty well. And he can see that you're trying to hold it in.
But is
And
he
you just-
impressed? That's
Oh,
all I
yeah.
want. Okay.
He was. With that, definitely. Danny would have been. Definitely would have been. With that,
So Tamara
he
decides.
he makes short talk and about he's going to go to the ship and he's going to tend to Aeolus. And he's curious to see what happens with the ship captain from the dreadnought. He talks about that briefly in hopes they're able to make it through this. He says, I know the rest of them plan to go to Vander's at some point today. And I know that Valdera and Tamara have been away from the heart of the beast for some time, and there will be a lot of jobs there that they'll have to get caught up on at some point. He says, and I have my priority on the ship. So he goes, in any time, if you'd want to, just come by or be a part of what we have going on there. Of course, Oma will always be there on the ship too, if you need to talk to her about anything. He's trying to make it apparent that he wouldn't mind you being around every once in a while, but he's giving you other excuses other than him seeing you.
Gotcha.
He's doing an okay, modest job at it, but he's not used to this dance. Okay. And with that, he stands up and begins to leave this place, going to make his day of it. And he goes, I'll see you then.
I'll see you then.
Okay. As he walks out, you can't help but look around and you see the Solomar elven character just looking across from you with a grin on his face, like this from the other side of the room. And you can see him turn around and you can hear a distance. He's going, yes, yes, yes. Exactly. He just keeps on eating, going about his business as he's eavesdropping on you to a degree. From there, where are you headed, Sylowen?
I'm going to Vander's to go check in with Miasha and everybody.
Okay. At that point, let's go ahead and move to Sean. Sean, we'll say you get up around 10:30, 11 o'clock. And the last noise that you hear, you were kind of in and out of sleep for the last 2 hours, trying to make yourself stay in there for just a little bit longer because you owe it to yourself. You like being yourself a little bit, and you're trying to work on how you want this version of yourself to be. When you get up maybe once or twice throughout the night, you look in your mirror and you kind of study the way you look now. And you kind of tweak it and see if that's really truly who you want to be. Just for curiosity, I would like for you to do a performance check. Hey, Lori, would you get me a Coke or Pepsi? please?
That is a 21.
It's very good. Whatever this is, and I'll let you explain to everyone what it is when they see you. Or is this something you're only working on in your own private time, and you'll be something
Oh, this is
different
something
later?
I'm only working on my own private time.
Okay. Is this the thing I know about?
No.
This is something
This
different.
is something completely different. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll leave it. I want to be surprised by it later too, so that's cool. I won't even ask. All right.
Mhm.
So, as the time comes along, you hear a brief knock and something slip underneath the door and a piece of parchment that's stiff. And the light footsteps walk off quickly from off the ship. And
Okay.
this is enough to start getting you up and getting you moving. What are you doing?
So Sade kind of shifts her form a little. You know, she's thinking about. They're thinking about this new chapter in their life, and this new chapter needs a new persona. So she more or less their body shifts. So the hair gets shorter, almost like it's like buzz cut from one side. And of course, it takes more masculine features. So she develops a chest, the breasts are gone. And then basically, Sade now looks like Mark Sundstrom if you've watched Power or The Ozarks.
I'm gonna write down. I haven't seen those, but you bet your ass I will. His name is Mark what?
Mark Sundstrom, Sundstrom. He basically looks like Kate Blanchett as a male.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well chosen,
And
buddy. That's awesome.
yeah. And so the hair is short, kind of cropped with like a little faux hawk. Still has the same clothing. It kind of just shifts along with Sade's form. And yeah, so now the voice drops a little lower. So then Sade goes and picks up the parchment and reads it, if there's any writing on it.
There is. It's elegant, and you can tell that this is something that would be the official letterhead of the city
Hmm.
on the dreadnought, no less, in light of everything that's happened. And it is pretty much a summary that there have been several different tasks that you've performed since your time here.
Hmm.
And by order of Gleandra, captain of the dreadnought, things like that, you have been given this official title, which on the ship, which puts you in our ledgers.
Hmm.
And you can only imagine this is probably written by that Solomar that you've met before, the one they were talking to just now in the restaurant.
Hmm.
He's the guy that goes through and does this. Payment will be sent to an affiliate location for everyone to receive, and will be escorted by, and it talks about, and has his own signature in that spot, and it's Valimar Justif. Valimar will be the one presenting this. And it will be done at the Drunken Mug for noon at lunch. And that's when he's going to dish out not only the payment that you'll be receiving for your part that you've played, and there's several different deeds that are written down on here. And it talks about, let me make sure I've got this written down correctly. So there were several different battles, and I don't know which ones you're a part of and which ones you weren't, but there was there was the Frostworm battle. You were a part of that, correct, Sade?
Hmm.
Okay, that
Yeah.
is one of them. There is the you weren't in the crypts with the guys before. That was somebody else. You weren't around yet.
Hmm.
Okay. There is A, B, and C. Okay, there was the getting rid.
Sorry. I made a mistake. The guy found the wrong name. The guy's name is actually Joseph Sikora. That's the actor who he looks like.
I'm glad, because I'd probably looked it up later and been like, what the hell is he talking about? Let me write that down, buddy. Hold on. Joseph and Sikora, Secora.
Sikora.
Okay, good deal. Okay. But yeah, there are several different tasks. And there is also the task of ridding the city of the goblin um, horde. And there will be different amounts given to people that had to do with that. And that will be done around noon today, which is about an hour and a half away at the Drunken Mug. Okay? Do you wish to keep this letter on you, or you just know that they know who you are, or would you like to put that
No,
on
I'll
your
keep,
person?
I'll keep the letter on me, since I would know that I'm changing my. I mean, I look like Sade, just like a male version of her, but people might not be able to pick up on that, so I'll keep the letter on me.
That's cool. And most folks get an idea as to you have some abilities to do this. They just don't know to what extent or how. Other than Oma,
Yeah.
although is
Yeah.
very quiet about this. Omi, as you know, has studied you pretty intently since this all started.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, is there anything you would be wanting to prepare or anything before you head out to town, or is what would you like to do for the next hour and a half of your time?
No, she's just gonna. Well, he's just gonna get up, probably make your way toward Vanderin's if at all possible, and maybe find like a street vendor to grab like a nice meat pie or something on the way to get something to
Okay.
munch on.
That'll be cool. Okay,
Yeah.
as you all decide to do that, I will say that Sylowen, you would have headed down to Vander's much earlier than that. And when you would have went down through Skywell, being earlier in the week, this is almost like a Monday, practically. Or no, this would be like a Sunday morning to us. This all happened on a Saturday night. So it is fairly busy in Skywell as people are registering for ships and trying to get on the ones they want and rallying for who they want to be a crew member of. And there are several new banners being put up that hang down through the center of this, some being taken down. And you meet Ignatius. He is actually standing out on a balcony, looking up into the city of the Falcon's Nest, the very top of the city. And he just seems to be leaning out casually. He has his cloak on. The cold wind and stuff blowing through there. This would be about 8:30, 9 a.m. after you and Dayhon have had time to eat. And he doesn't even aware that you're walking down through here behind him. He is just kind of looking out over the balcony and just has that kind of pleasant smile of peace about his face. Do you stop and have anything to say to him? He hasn't perceived you yet, or do you continue to go south down through the skywell?
No, I yell out. I say, Iggy.
He stops and he turns around for a minute with a curious look on his face, and all of a sudden that cocked eyebrow turns into pleasantry as a large warm grin comes onto his face, and he goes, "We've survived another day so far. They'll never believe us back home." And he smiles and he goes, "Did you? I didn't know if I should have expected you last night or not. So of course I left the door open. It's not as if I would be in danger in a place owned by the king. Where did?" And he looks at you for a minute, and he sees the big grin on your face like you have right now, and he's looking at you, kind of trying to decide. And he goes to ask you where you were last night, and he stops himself. Where would?
I just say, it was an adventure. I'll tell you about it later.
If you feel the need to, I'd. He says like that. He just kind of cocks his head.
I'm assuming it's normal for me to like mess around with Iggy.
Absolutely. Let's just say
Okay.
it is. I like it. Okay. With that, he says, "Where were you heading to today? I'm still trying to decide how I want to spend it."
I'm heading to Vander's if you want to come.
I I might be there after a while. I'm still kind of waiting for Bastille to return. It worries me how he left. Um,
Is he expected today?
he goes, "That's just it. That's the thing that worries me. Bastille And he's told you stories about Bastille, and you know Bastille. He's out to escort Brahmas to the city where you were from. You've met him. He's one of them that helped save you when your wing was taken from you. You have a very high opinion of him.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
figured.
he says to you, he goes, that's just the thing that worries me. He's been so amazing to not just me, but a lot of other people, even though he's going through a lot personally. And he wouldn't tell me where he was going because he told me, and it still haunts me, he didn't want me to have to lie to anyone about it.
Well, that seems concerning. No.
It certainly does. But you almost have to respect the man.
Respect or
it
think
seems,
he's a fool for doing this on his own.
well, I try not to have to think anyone down here, so to say, is a fool until I've walked a day in their shoes. And so far, I've been wearing my shoes thin. He says kind of to you in that way. He says, but sometimes a foolish act, I suppose, can be a noble act.
Are you going to look for him right now? Do you know if he's in the city? Should we I will accompany you if
I,
that
I
is
I know who to talk to see where he went. I just sometimes I'm afraid if I dig for my own treasure of knowledge, I may uncover another. I hope that metaphor explains it. He goes, but I would meet you at Vander's a little later. I need to think on this a little bit more, but that's where I'll be going later as well.
all right. I mean, I guess like she can tell that she's being, told to go off somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
but he does want to collect some thoughts and things, and he's always been a very considerate and a very processed person. Even when he was doing the archaeology on the old angelic ruins in the city where you're from, he and you almost have to respect his process. He's very wise. He's very takes his time on shit, but there's usually a good reason. And he doesn't want to go to Vander with worrying questions in haste, and that's what he's coming across as. So he's going to collect all of his shit and think about it, and he'll probably be there later on today.
right.
Okay.
Well, I take that to heart, and well, not like him saying that, but like I take what he's saying and I
I'm with you.
believe him, and then I head on down to Vander's.
Okay. As let's see, the next person to wake would possibly be Tamara. Tamara, um, you are woke by a soft knock on the door, and then a piece of parchment is slid underneath of your door, and you can also hear the same thing is happening across the hall in Valdera's room. And then you hear light footsteps walk off. As you open up your eyes and you're there again, sometimes when you wake up in the mornings, you still forget that you're not in Tordain, which is the city you're from. You're here. And you have that moment. That's how well you were sleeping. When you hear that go on, what is it Tamara's doing?
Tamara is gonna wake up and go get the piece of paper that was slid under her door and read what it has to say.
Okay. Just similar to what I explained to Sean earlier. Did you catch up on all that, or were you out of the room?
I did not. I was distracted with cats.
I understand. It's easy to do. It is basically a letter written in the hand. It looks like an elvish person's handwriting, but writing common. Okay. It is explaining this. It seems to be from a guy called Solomar, which is someone that is a warden over top of the airships. And you saw him battle in the behemoth fights and do very, very well. Roll a Arcana check for me, please.
Nice. 21.
Okay. When you saw him performing in the fight, as you took in that as well. I'm not your character did anyway, but Do you remember how those went down? The fights versus the behemoth back in the arena. Okay, so long story short, you recognize that this person, this Solomar, is what they call a blade singer to a degree. Now that's a very D&D thing. It's made up in stories of that, but in our version of it, this is a person that is extraordinarily finessed and versed in using and combining swordplay and wizardry at the same time, to a degree where it becomes more of a performance and a show of grace, and the two intertwine in this amazing chemistry that they pull off in their fighting. He's one of the only ones you've ever seen to do it, and it was amazing. It made you, when you were watching him do this, it made you question if you could ever be capable of something like that with a flail and some healing word spells. This is next level shit this guy was doing. And it talks about a payment on behalf of King Omadon and different officials in the city for the deeds that have went unpaid to you and several others of your company. And they include a list of, fighting the Frostworm, ridding the city of the Goblin Horde, different things that you've been taking part of, your training with art, and what you seem to have rewarded from that. And they are going to give it to you at the Drunken Mug at noon today. Okay? And that there is a list of other people's names, and it's most of the folks that are in your immediate party that you have been hanging out with. That's what the letter says.
Cool.
You can hear the door open across the hallway, and a large kind of this next morning groan that Valdera lets out as she picks up the paper and looks at it. And you hear, and you can't help but listen, and you hear, blah blah blah, fucking great. And you hear paper getting wadded up and thrown in a room, and as she's walking down the hallway, you can hear her stumble for a minute as she's putting her boots on, hopping on one leg, going down the hallway. You've heard her do this before. She dresses as she goes, and she's getting her gear on and things of that nature. You can hear the leather straps, and you can actually once or twice you hear her sword, that large sword she has on her back, hit the hallways a little bit as she's getting her shit together and she's walking downstairs. What are you doing?
I'm going to gracefully get ready in the room before I leave. And then I guess I will head downstairs as well to get some breakfast. I'm assuming the Drunken Mug has some food out. Or not the Heart of the Beast. I keep minding them in
The
my
Heart
head.
of the Beast usually always will, and if they don't order it from the mug, they order it from different places in the city. And it'll be there ready for you almost cafeteria style. Gwyneth feeds the people that work for her pretty well.
Gotcha. So I will go partake in breakfast.
As you open up the door, you do smell that automatically. And you hear good morning rituals and things being said and things going on downstairs. We'll pause on that for just a moment. Brahmas, as you wake, would you like to give me a time roughly about when you come out of there? Do you have a certain set time you'd like to try to make it to the show?
I feel like Mark could be an early riser.
What's that, bud? I couldn't hear you.
I feel like Mark could be an early riser.
Okay. As you do, when you wake from the sleeping chambers, which I'll let you decide, like I've told everyone else tonight, you decide to describe where it is that you like to rest yourself when you're within this thing. And it might be something you've created. It looks like something from your actual life, your childhood. It could be different things. Okay. Are you ladies getting ready to go do the cat thing? Okay. As soon as I get done with his scene here, we're going to take a few minutes of break, then we'll be back. Okay. So you can go ahead and then we'll be returned shortly. As you do, and you get up that next morning, you see something odd in your room that wasn't there when you went to bed. And it's that harpoon. And it is leaning against the wall where you keep the things that you wore when you were in battle before. The last time you jumped out of Brahmas's body, you have a you have created from your mind the battle gear and shit that you wore at the foot of the Mountain of Tears. Your great sword, your armor, the bayonet flew over your shoulder, which is a much older version of what the king has now. It's a much different order of paladin than you were. Whereas a lot of the people that are soldiers for the king of Gemdar wear the black and gold. Yours is more based on your deity and your beliefs, and they're more celestial looking. You know what I mean? And the harpoon is laying there beside them. And you stare at it for a minute, and you kind of tell yourself, I need to go forward. I know what it is to look back in that, and this will come to me. If it's important, it'll show itself. You know what I mean? With that, when you get up, where would you like to take Brahmas? Would you like to just go by as yourself for a minute? What is it you would like to do as you do this? You have a inkling that people are going to want to meet up there at Vander's at some point today. You just don't know when.
Well, for the first few minutes, what was our ruling on jaunt? Was that how many times a day was I able to do that?
I don't remember. You just have to kind of look in that. They'll tell you how many times you can do it there. Ethereal Jaunt, level 10.
Constitution modifier +1 times per day.
Okay, that's cool.
Or no, it's Constitution modifier per long rest. Okay.
Okay. So, what are you thinking?
He's going to come out of Brahmas.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
just for the giggles of it, he's going to see what he can do with that harpoon.
Okay. As you go and you walk across your room, and this is the room inside of Brahmas, not the room in Vander's. This is still inside of Brahmas. Okay.
I thought you were talking about the room that Brahmas.
Nope, it's still in Brahmas. Okay.
Never mind the jaunt then.
Never mind what?
Never mind the jaunt. I thought it was coming out to.
No, it's fine. No. So as you grab onto the harpoon, you grab a hold of that, and all of a sudden you feel it kind of shaking, as if it's hard to hold on to, and you smell that ocean stuff again. Okay. And as you are doing this, you have a flashback of something. Okay. You remember yourself being on a vessel with many other people that look like you do, and there's even a couple familiar faces that you know are familiar, but you haven't thought of in some time. It almost was too painful to think about this memory, Jeremy. Okay, and all you remember is that you were south of the Bay of Hope, and you still can't remember exactly what this voyage was for. You were heading somewhere, something was going on, and as you hold on to that and your eyes are closed tight to the point where you can feel it hurting your face, it's almost like you're having kind of like a small seizure. You're locked up on this thing, almost like you see the guys touch an electric line in the movies and shit. And as that goes on, you feel the ocean spray on your face. And all you hear is this low sounding cry, this roar of some kind of giant creature that sounds to be deep behind something, under something, muffled to some degree. And then in the last moment, it becomes clear as if it is bursting through some kind of inner barrier of your hearing. And you remember seeing people panic. You're getting flashes of being underwater. You're seeing bodies floating down through the water. You're hearing distant muffled screams and things like that. You can hear cannons going off. And then all of a sudden, you're whooshed around through the water and you see large bluish green scales that glimmer like they're made of some kind of gem just wash by you. And these scales are large like this. These things wash past you. And as they do, you see this particular harpoon stuck in the side of this creature. Okay? Your arm reaches out to grab it, and all of a sudden you feel the mouth fill with water. Your eyes have to close because of the pressure. And as you hold on to this creature and whatever this large thing was thrust into it, you're able to keep a hand grip on, okay? And all of a sudden it comes back out and it goes into and breaks free, and all of a sudden there's that light that smacks you in the face, just like it did when you first walked in that door. Okay? And all of a sudden you have this big breath of air because you're up on the surface again. As soon as that happens, boom, you're back in the room. And you're just left there thinking, I can't remember doing that. I don't remember. You've sailed to go from place to place. You've done that before, but whatever this is different. That was me. I know I'm a good swimmer. You remember swimming. But what you did in that instance still is very unclear to you. And you have that to ponder for now. What would you like to do next? If there's more you'd like to investigate on that, or would you like to pilot Brahmas and leave the room?
I'll hold off on it for the time being.
Okay.
I think he would go up to speak with Vander just to see if he's heard hide or hair of anybody, or where everybody's been or going, or what have you.
Okay. So as you go ahead and you leave and you go up through up the main hallways and stuff, and you look back to that room, and do you stop at that room and investigate it again, or are you just thinking that that room is somehow tied to this memory it's triggering from you? And what's your, you just go home, walk past it? Do you want to stop and ponder it for a minute? Do you want to memorize it so you can ask Vander about it later?
I feel like curiosity at this point would be getting the better of him. Like he'd be frustrated at this point that he can't quite put two and two together on it.
I get you. So, what are you doing?
He's going to check it out.
Okay. As you go to the door and you're staying there in Brahmas, are you wishing to do this as you, or are you wishing to step outside and be Merc? And if you do, you know that would probably be crossing a line of Vander than them, but it's something you know maybe you'd be capable of. You're not sure. How do you want to go about this? I mean, it's a sealed door. You can't get in it. But you can always sit there and listen and see if anything happens this morning. It's up to you.
I think he would listen. He respects Vander quite a bit, would not want to invade. But I think he would at the very least listen.
Okay. As you stand there for a minute and you're listening, and you find yourself inside of Brahmas just looking up at that window of the present, just standing there, looking up through this large church-like glass window and seeing the images unfold before you between the different colored pieces of glass. You roll a perception check.
$14.
14. Okay. So, as you're staring at the door, you start to get that smell again of ocean water. Okay? There's something happening, and this time, when you are standing out there, you hear Yeah, not with the 14. I can't do that. You think for just a moment, and you can't remember if it was you're just remembering it from your memory from before, but you hear what seems like the deep beginning of that very deep, distant roar of whatever this creature was that went by you from deep beneath the waves. And it almost excites you and spikes your adrenaline for just a half a second. And it's so distant, you're not sure if it's your imagination doing it or if it's something you're hearing from this. And as you get to be so focused on that, you all of a sudden notice that Vander is standing about 20 foot from you, and he is just locking up a door that's about 5 or 6 doors down from you and coming out of a chamber. And you notice him when he turns the key to lock a door behind you. And as you would look over at him, he'd be looking at you blankly with an arched eyebrow as he undoes the key and takes it, and the key vanishes in his hand. And he says, "Everything okay this morning, Merc?"
I think still staring at the door, he would address Vander, saying, if I were to describe to you a monstrous creature with blue and green scales the size of my head,
He gets a half grin on his face and begins to walk up to you with his hands behind his back, strolling, scholarly. Continue.
what would you make of that?
He has a hard time finding the words, and he takes a breath and he kind of smiles, holding the breath at the top of it, and says to you, "I would say that you've had a long day." And he stands over there and he takes his hand and he rubs up along the side of the door like this, almost like he's admiring some woodwork or something he had done at one point. And he looks over to you and he says, "And some things are better left in the past." And he says, "But if you would like, and if you're ready to walk in this room at some point, we could work towards that goal."
I would like that very much. The memory doesn't seem like it should be mine. It feels strange, but I feel like I need to see it all the way through.
He smiles and he says, "We'll have this conversation." He says, "You're seeing something that most folks that take the path that you have wouldn't be able to see." He looks up and down, and you can see Vander's face up close looking around Brahmas's head. He goes, "You have a unique situation. Not everyone gets to remember the moment the Valkyrie chose them." And he smiles. And he goes, we'll talk about it when you're ready." Now, when he says that, what does that make you think? You're not quite sure what that means. You know what Valkyries are. You know the legends. It's a part of your belief and shit, but you've never heard you being put into the same framework as one. And you know you called out to the Valkyries in the last battle to do you some kind of divine favor. And following them, you feel a connection to them. And this is odd to you. Okay? But those are your thoughts after hearing that, okay? With that, what are you doing?
Have you
What
heard,
you doing, Jeremy? What you doing?
you heard from anybody this morning?
Now that is something I can help you with. You have a message waiting for you. I've already read it, seeing how it wasn't put in an envelope. Um, it's a step towards normalcy. I think you'll be most pleased with it. Come. I have a feeling you're not the only one that's going to be visiting here today. And he leaves the chambers. And as he does, you still look at that door for just a moment and being like, not everyone remembers when the Valkyrie chose them. What is? You know what I mean? It's on you, but it's not. So at that point, are you following him up, or what are you doing at this point?
I feel like he just had that split second, like, all right, how many times have I died?
I get it. That's fair.
But he'd follow him up.
Okay. As you head up there, you see Vander, and you look around. You do not see Ember. Okay. And you, just 1 minute. I'm sorry. Hey, don't yell in one room to the other. It's okay. Just be polite. Thank you. You hear, or you would see. Sorry about that. I got distracted. Sorry. You hear and see. You can do both. It's amazing. When you there's no one there. Ember is not present. You had thought she would. Usually, when you show up, she usually pops up over the railing pretty quick to investigate you and see what's going on. She's not there. But that note is out there on a table. And Roland the Magnificent is there, and he is saying his goodbyes and things of that nature. Do you remember who Roland the Magnificent is? Okay. He is the bard type character that works for the Heart of the Beast Salvage and Supply. He is the one that looks like the guy from A Knight's Tale that did the introductions and all that shit. He's also the one that sang all those songs at the Dwarven Wake and things. Very flamboyant.
Uh,
Yes. So they've nicknamed him. He has several names. You've heard word called the Silver Sword, the Silver Fox. You've heard different things. It has to do with his very light blonde hair, almost platinum-like in a way. And he seems to be just leaving this place, as if maybe he had something to do with leaving the letter. Okay. He just looks at you and gives you a devilish grin, and gives you a long, sarcastic, and elegant bow, and rolls the hand and leaves as he leaves out the door and shuts it behind him without saying so much as a word to you, just making eye contact. As you go up there, it is on the table. Vander is back behind his shop, scrolling through a book without touching the pages, just moving his finger. What is it you would like to do?
did Vander hand me a message?
It's over there laying on the table.
He'll go read it.
And I know you've heard not once but twice what this letter says. And that is that. So, with that going by, let's go ahead and do this. Sylowen, you are on your way to Vander's now, correct? Okay. Tamara, you are at the Heart of the Beast. And Sade, you were on your way to Vander's first, correct? Okay. Let's go ahead and get with Sade real quick. As you leave the confines of the Dreadnought from your room, It's more vacant than you would have imagined. With this being like a Sunday morning type kind of style, or almost Sunday afternoon, um, you notice that there is a lack of hustle and bustle on the ship. As a matter of fact, you don't hear or see much of anything. There are very few whispers in the hallways at all, as people are either there are no one in any of the rooms, or the ones that are typically in the rooms are not there. Okay? As you walk down those same kind of corridors that you did that battle in, you can't help but look at the shadows and remember the hands that reached out for you.
Mhm.
You kind of have that moment. You go out to the upper deck. It is a cold day. There is no snow, but there is sun. And as you walk out onto the main of the deck, no one particularly is there right now. And you don't see any sign of the person that left the letter. Um, you do, however, see Oma walking up the plank, coming in your direction, bundled up, and a concerned look on her face, headed to your direction. Do you greet her, or do you have other places to be?
Um. So Sade is going to snap his fingers, and the
I know
raven
we
is
gotta get
gonna
used to that,
appear.
right?
Raven's gonna appear on his shoulder, and is just gonna walk up to Oma and be like, "Oh, hi Oma, how are you today?"
Okay. She looks at you for a long moment. You are in the male form, correct?
Hmm.
She looks at you for just. She stands about 5 foot from you, and she stops. And she looks at you for a moment, and she looks at it sitting on your shoulder,
Hmm.
and then she gets this look of peace over herself as you can see her eyebrows relax,
Hmm.
and she looks at you and she goes, "That's nice."
Mm. Yeah, I figure it's a new chapter, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, so why not have a new look?
I suppose if I could, I would choose to look a little different every once in a while myself. She kind of smiles. She remembers, and then she looks for a minute, and shakes her head, and she goes, "Oh, um, have you how have you been feeling today? After everything from last night."
Hmm. Well, good, surprisingly.
And you do.
Um,
You feel pretty good,
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
like a weight has been lifted off my chest.
She
I
goes.
mean, literally, a weight has been lifted off my chest.
She looks down where your breast used to be, and
Yeah.
has kind of a smile and looks embarrassed as she looks right and left, and kind of smiles and looks back up at you, and she says, I'm glad to hear that." She goes, "But um you did you actually, and I hate to be asking too much of you, Sade," she goes, "but did you
Mhm.
actually touch the mask?"
No, I didn't. Although one of our companions did it. This Tamara, yeah, I believe she did.
Okay, I
Um,
believe that. I thought
yeah.
she Gleander had mentioned something to that effect. Um, she's she's going to be fine, but not going to be able to be a ship captain for a while.
Wow.
It's strange. She still hears them calling to her from the shadows. She can still see them. She says, and Oma sticks her hand out. She goes, grabbing for her. She goes, I asked my brother, and it's funny. That she can summon her brother. And when she talks about him like he's a real person, like he's right there, you've always wondered about the level of denial that Oma has about her abilities. That she believes these people have passed on, or if they're just real and still right there. She goes, I have consulted my brother about this, and this is a different type of magic that I'm used to dealing with. Um,
Hmm.
she wanted to make sure that you were okay this morning, which is why I showed up.
Well, thank you for your concern, Noma. I'm feeling fit as a fiddle. In fact, I'm on my way to Vander's right now. If you'd like to come with me, or if you have duties on your ship, that's fine.
I
I have
actually,
something to return to Vander.
she goes, I would, but this morning she goes, I have some other things to do. Aeolus, um, needs me to help him with a couple things on the ship. We're working on some new spells for his musket, which
Okay,
I
that's
can still
fair.
smell the remnants of it on the ship here. She goes, "That's funny, that stinky
Yeah.
thing." She goes, instead of the sky dragon, it should be called the dragon's breath, maybe." She says like cat and smiles. Um, she goes, but I'll I'll, I'll tell Glander you do well, and still no word from. And she has a hard time remembering the name exactly, and she says Asliar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What if you?
Works.
She wants me to let you know that if you do see him, um, to tell him thank you.
Will do.
All right, I must go. Have a and there should be some. Did you get the same letter that I did? And she reaches from underneath of her thing and holds out the letter.
Oh, yes, the one about the reward at the drunken mug and whatnot.
She goes, smile. She goes, yes, I'll see you there probably later on. Then I didn't realize we were going to be paid for that, but it's a pleasant surprise.
Exactly, more money for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, anyway, before you go, do you know where I can get a good pasty or meat pie or anything? I'm kind of eat on the run here.
Actually, I always go to Leah's over here on this place, and if you need to get something quick in a hurry, it'd probably just be as easy to tell her. And sometimes you can run into a vendor on Skywell, especially on Sunday mornings. There might be a person there. Either one of those would probably work out okay for you, I'd have to say.
Okay. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
Nope, not a problem. Well, take care of yourself, okay?
You too.
And she turns around and peacefully walks off back to her ship. She's done what she came to do. Where you headed?
To find a purveyor of meat pies and then off to Vander's shop.
Okay, so you have the two different places you can go. You can go to Leah's, or you could go by the Crow's Nest and get some kind of nasty pub food in the morning. You don't know what they'd serve on the Sunday morning. Or you could go down through Skywell and look for a vendor on your way. Which one would you like to do?
I'm going to go through Skywell and look for a vendor.
Okay,
Not in the mood for mystery meat or spicy foods.
right on. As you go by, her place looks fairly busy. And as you're getting up and heading down that way, you see something familiar up in the distance. And you see the red wyvern-winged helmet of Sylowen by herself descending down into Skywell as you first start into it. She's several flights down from you as you peer out and you're looking down through the center, making her way down through.
I mentally tell Isadora to go fly and see if you can grab her attention and land on her shoulder or something.
Okay. So as soon as you would break off from your conversation with Ignatius because he wanted to be alone, and as you were walking off from there, Sylowen, all of a sudden the black raven form with the somewhat crimson eye of Isadora seems to fly at you and lets out a soft kind of chirp or two from underneath of its beak and lands on a ledge about 10 foot ahead of you on the stairway as you walk down. You automatically recognize what this bird is.
All right, I go, I know you. And I walk up to her and I guess I put my arm out.
It kind of does it, perks and looks around a little bit and kind of looks back and looks at your arm, perked out, and turns his head a little bit. That has give her hesitation. And as it does, it kind of hops once, it hops twice, and looks out at you and kind of reaches and looks at your arm just a few more times and looks back and squawks one more time. This one a little bit louder than the last time. Okay, and roll a just for the hell of it, roll a charisma check.
18.
Yes, the bird actually does come up and land on you. You get a sensation. This bird has no weight to it. And when it gets up closer to you, you can see that it seems like it's in between dimensions. As you look at it with your arcane abilities, being able to cast spells and things of that nature, you can see that it is a familiar, is a summoned creature, not a real one, and you recognize that automatically as being Sade's. At that
But can I
moment,
pet it?
yes, if you choose to.
All right, I pet it. And
With
then
a
I look
charisma
around.
check of that, and you'd be fine to do it. Yeah.
As
Wait,
you, no, go ahead.
No, I said I was gonna pet it and I was gonna look around looking for you.
Okay.
As
So
you pet it, I through Isadora cast minor illusion, make it look like she pooped on your arm.
And she says, "That's okay. We all have to poop. I will just wipe this off on a leaf."
See, now this is someone who's been dealing with baby kittens, so you're not going to get a rise out of her right now from something like that. She is in that mindset. But no.
And then I say out loud to the bird, I'm like, "The lowlanders say this is good luck. So thank you."
That's fantastic. Oh, that's good. If I can get a video title out of that somehow, I'm surely to do it. That's
The
going to work
lowlanders
out.
say
No.
it's good luck.
That shit is good luck.
That shit is good luck. That's some good luck shit right there. So you came down there, tickled with yourself, looking a little different than you normally would. And for all those paying attention, did you all get his description earlier as to what he looks like now?
Yes.
Did you, Heather? Or sorry, Kara. Kara.
Of whose description?
Sade's.
Yes.
Okay. So you finally get yourself wrapped around where you are within about 40 or 50 feet of Sylowen, and you make a point to catch up with her. Go ahead and have your interaction, folks. What do you say, Sean?
Oh, Sylowen. Finally running into you here.
Who are you?
Oh, that's right. You haven't seen me like this.
You recognize the voice to a degree. Roll a perception check, please. Between the bird and hearing this, oh, darling, who are you exactly? You're getting an idea.
I got a 4, but I have 6 to perception, so 10.
You would recognize yourself in the mirror with a 10. 10 is basic. You'd be able to pull off basic shit. I got to tell you, with the 10, you're like, that's the bird, and you sound like him, but it's not you. With the 10, that's what you would get.
All right.
So elaborate, Sean, if you choose to.
All right. He's like, oh, right. And then he just lets his hair grow really long. It's me.
Oh,
And then
hello.
the hair
I haven't
goes
seen
right
you
back up to the.
haven't seen you in so long. I love that trick you can do.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It's biological.
Oh, okay. So I can't do it. That's cool. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
I mean, you could with the right magics, but it's not as tangible as my transformations.
Well, very cool. Very cool. What's up?
Oh, I'm just on my way to Vander's. I'm also looking for something to eat.
Oh,
I love it. You say it with a mouthful of food. You're like, Sade's hungry.
do I have any doggy bagged feast that I brought with me?
You know what?
Half a feast.
You said that you weren't able to get all the way through that food. Just for entertainment purposes, I'm going to say you did choose to take some with you because it was so much of a cost and you didn't get all the way through it. You absolutely have some of the Chiron special.
Well, listen here. I have the Chiron special. It's the most expensive thing on the menu. I bought it because I can. Wow. Weird world that you guys have down here. Here. And I just shove it into Sade's hands.
Oh, okay. How much was
The bird's
it?
like, wow.
It was like a gold. It was crazy.
Only a gold. Oh, that is quite cheap. Oh, thank you so much. Saves me from having to buy something.
100%. You're welcome.
This smells, even though it's a little cold at this point, Sean, This smells
Mhm.
amazing, way better than the tentacles you had from there. And
Mm.
you are now wondering if this is going to be fate may be on your side. You walked by that place, you said, I don't have time for all that. And by God, here it is.
Mhm.
And are you still going to look for something else, or is this going to work for you?
Nope. I got food, and now I'm off to. Well, thank you. If you want, you can join me. I'm heading toward Vander's. Are you heading toward Vander's?
I absolutely am heading towards Vander's. Let's go
Okay,
together.
come. Yes,
Okay.
let's.
So with that, it is 9:28, and I have been watching that for you guys because I know you're on a tight ship. Okay, so let's go ahead and call that for tonight. Okay. Now, Jeremy, do you have to get off here at 9:30 as well?
9:30 or close to it. I can hang out for a couple minutes. Though.
Well, no, that's perfectly fine. I just didn't know if I could do something separately. And about you, Sean, it's 9:30, a good time for you to hop off here as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that works out good. So we're going to go ahead and start with Tamara having when we start again, it'll be Tamara having an interaction with everyone at the Heart of the Beast. Okay. And then it will be everyone else meeting up at Vander's at roughly the same time.
Cool.
Okay. So we've got through that. Everyone's been through their motions. It takes time to do these kind of things. I could have said, okay, everyone gets up. Where are you going? Where are we meeting? And just fast forward past it. But I don't want to push you into doing shit you don't want to do. And there's things to be had around every corner. So with that, you all are headed to the same place. And you all mostly you've got letters knowing that there's some kind of reward or payment for your services to the city. And around
Except
noon.
for me. I don't know this is happening. I still don't know.
Well, they didn't know where you stayed the night last night.
I know. But I'm just saying. Well, what? Wait, Dayhon was about. was
Sade
a
would have
part of
in
this.
passing said, "Hey, I got this letter. Did you get one?"
No.
I'm sure you got something.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm
Wait,
sure
wouldn't-
you were
Wouldn't
involved.
Dayhon
So I'm
have
sure.
gotten one?
Not unless I mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, and I can't tell you until after the thing. There's reasons for that.
Well, I am
Someone
not
intercepted
plugged.
his because he owed somebody money.
Oh.
Sleeping with the wrong man.
Well, I mean, he's been in jail a couple times, and he's made a pretty good bill on Aeolus's expense. So it's his ship, his rules. But anyway,
Sounds exactly like what a reckless person would go for.
that's what you got. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for hanging out tonight. Like I say, it's 9:30 sharp. I'm going to stop recording. We'll bullshit for just a few minutes and call it quits. I like this process. If we might skip Wednesday again, just go to next Sunday when everyone has more time. And if we feel like this is too short or not enough time to do it, we can always start at maybe 6. Just depends on what everybody's doing. We'll just go as we go, okay? So thanks again, and we will talk to you all possibly next Sunday. Take care of yourselves. Later.